It seems like Little Jeff's crew has finally taken revenge for his death, as rumors are now spreading that Trap City Rob, the person believed to be responsible, was just brutally killed while serving time in prison.
They stood over him, man, 17 times to the
Sources say he was tortured into confessing before the hit happened, and I've got all the details. Let's break it down. Little Jeff's killer is now behind bars dead. Word is spreading fast online about Trap City Rob being killed in jail, and while some think it's just a rumor, let's be real, it's not that hard to believe. From the very beginning, Little Jeff's father made it clear this story wouldn't end with a funeral. When your son is gunned down in broad daylight, you don't just go back to life like nothing happened. He took to Facebook and poured out the kind of raw pain only a father who's lost a child to street violence can show. He said the story wasn't over and warned everyone to clear the streets. But those weren't just emotional words from a grieving father, they were a declaration of war, a warning that the Bloodhound family wasn't going to let their soldier's death be forgotten. And Pops wasn't the only one keeping the fire alive. Q50, Little Jeff's closest friend and his right-hand man in the Bloodhound crew, had been acting differently ever since Jeff was killed. People on the streets were already whispering that Q50 was planning something, getting ready to strike back and make Trap City feel that same pain. It was the same kind of energy Little Jeff had before his own death, when he warned his enemies that payback was coming.
service announcement. On my dead grandmother's head, if I'm laying, I'm down, God could come pull me out this car right now. A never took a dollar from me.
That wasn't just for show, it was a code, a deep-rooted tradition within the Bloodhound circle built on loyalty, revenge, and legacy. And when it came to Q50, those close to him said he was all in, even willing to die for it. Losing Little Jeff didn't break him. It sharpened his focus, turning him into someone fully committed to getting payback. The beef between Bloodhound and Trap City wasn't new, it had been building for months through shootings, threats, and cryptic Instagram posts that all pointed to an inevitable war. So when Little Jeff was killed, everyone knew it was only a matter of time before things blew up. Now, hearing that Trap City Rob may have been killed in jail doesn't sound far-fetched, it feels like the next step in a deadly cycle. Ironically, Rob had been praised as the Defensive Player of the Year after the shooting, with many claiming he was just defending his ground from an armed attacker. But that praise meant nothing once he was behind bars. Jail operates by its own rules, and the same streets that once hyped him up were now whispering about his fall. Rob was arrested shortly after the incident, and although people expected a murder charge, authorities later ruled it as either self-defense or mutual combat based on video footage and witness testimony. Legally, that meant he dodged a murder conviction, but in the streets, justice follows a different code. The Bloodhounds weren't interested in court decisions. To them, the balance hadn't been restored, and they were determined to handle it their way. Even without a murder charge, Rob was still in trouble. He was a convicted felon caught with a gun, and that carried serious penalties. He was labeled an armed habitual criminal and landed in the worst place possible, locked up, vulnerable, and surrounded by people who might hold old grudges or deep loyalty to Bloodhound. Jail isn't just about bars and routine, it's a dangerous world of silent politics, alliances, and ongoing battles. And being linked to the death of someone as respected as Little Jeff made Rob a clear target. To understand how it reached this point, you have to go back to that violent summer day that changed everything. On June 8, 2024, what began as a typical day in the trenches ended with one of Bloodhound's most well-known members dead in the street. Little Jeff's hopes of rap stardom and street power were cut short in a hail of bullets. The shooting reportedly happened during a drill mission to find a rival on enemy ground. Video footage allegedly showed Jeff armed and aggressive, trying to break into a house where his target was hiding. But this wasn't some defenseless victim, it was Trap City territory, and they weren't about to let an enemy invade without a fight. Little Jeff didn't realize he was walking into a deadly setup, where the person inside was ready to defend himself no matter what. The result was fast and brutal. Jeff was shot multiple times, with reports claiming he took between 17 to 19 bullets.
Stood over, man, 17 times to the chest. The autopsy came out. 17 times. You see how little he was, like, to take 17 bullets? 19
For a young man known for being the aggressor, the one who caught his enemies slipping, this sudden reversal was both shocking and final. The very streets that made Little Jeff a legend also became the stage for his violent end. Police recovered around 45 shell casings from the scene, showing just how chaotic and deadly those last moments were. This wasn't a quick ambush, it was a full-on shootout that left no doubt about anyone's intentions. When the smoke cleared and sirens faded, little Jeff was gone, and the drill world had lost one of its most controversial and relentless figures. But in street wars, death isn't the end, it's just the start of a new chapter. The only real questions are when revenge will come, where it will hit, and how much blood it will take. Judging by the current whispers, that revenge might have just happened inside a prison cell. So how did we get to this point? Little Jeff's death sparked a deadly chain of events. Like many legendary hip-hop rivalries, it began with something small, chain snatching. But in street life, respect means everything, and even a minor insult can turn into all-out war. The fight between the Bloodhound crew and Trap City wasn't based on old territory, beef, or long-standing grudges. It started with jewelry. In early 2023, Little Jeff, repping the Bloodhound Drill City set, snatched Carter Var's chain. But it wasn't just theft, it was a loud message that Trap City couldn't protect its own. In the streets, that's the ultimate disrespect. Trap City fired back on March 16, 2023. Little Cap from their crew killed Zoni, a respected Drill City member and Little Jeff's cousin. That act wasn't random, it was a clear escalation. Zoni's death lit a fire in Little Jeff, turning him from a focused hustler into a man obsessed with revenge. It unleashed a violent streak that only grew stronger. On June 25, 2023, Little Jeff and Q50 shot and killed Lau from Trap City, showing that the Bloodhounds were fully locked into the war. That summer, Jeff amped up his tactics by humiliating Big Motion from Trap City, forcing him to say Leo on camera before knocking him out. It was psychological warfare, designed to crush his enemy's pride. But humiliation wasn't enough. Jeff wanted blood. On August 31, 2023, he and Q50 caught Glenn from Trap City and pumped 15 bullets into him, sending a violent message. Trap City retaliated by shooting Q50, who miraculously survived more than 10 shots that fall. But the Bloodhounds kept going, shooting T3 to prove they weren't backing down. What began with a chain had now turned into a full-blown war of survival, driven by pride and fueled by loss. The violence became deeply personal. This wasn't just about crews anymore. It was about family, vengeance, and legacy. Each killing only raised the stakes, and neither side was ready to back off. Diss tracks and social media posts poured fuel on the fire, turning real bloodshed into entertainment, with fans choosing sides and glorifying the violence. Little Jeff used this chaos to grow his image, building a persona where every murder boosted his street and rap status. He treated killings like career highlights, constantly updating fans with taunts and claims of new victims. This wasn't just criminal, it was branding built on death. The mental toll of this lifestyle was huge. These were young men turned into hardened soldiers, using pain as fuel and fear as motivation. As the war dragged on, it became clear the end would only come through total destruction or police crackdown. But in Chicago's drill scene, the police are seen as enemies too, and working with them is viewed as betrayal. Little Jeff's violent legacy blurred the line between gang member and serial killer. Most people think serial killers are loners with twisted minds, but Jeff proved that in the drill world, all it takes is endless ammo, a deep grudge, and no fear of death. His transformation began with Zoni's murder and escalated with each life he took. But what made him different was how publicly and proudly he did it, turning murder into a performance for the streets and the internet. He wasn't just fighting for control or money, he was building a name so feared that even saying it made people uneasy. His reported body count during his short and brutal run reads like something out of a crime novel, with law enforcement and street sources linking him to at least 7 confirmed murders. Jeff himself claimed 11, often bragging in lyrics and posts, showing a level of pride and recklessness that made his downfall feel inevitable. One of his most high-profile victims was Lau, real name Jail Goins, who was gunned down on June 25, 2023. But Jeff didn't stop at the killing. He turned Lau's death into part of his brand, mocking him in songs and online, making sure even death offered no peace. Glenn from Trap City met a similar fate, taking 15 bullets in what looked more like a statement than a simple hit. Jeff wasn't thinking tactically anymore, he was enjoying the chaos. The most disturbing moment may have come on January 26, 2024, during a shooting at Innovations High School, where two students, Robert Boston Little Rob and Mondio Williams Monty, were killed in what should have been a safe space. Jeff allegedly took credit, saying he had 10 hats, with the last to being graduation caps, a sick joke referencing the victims being students. That kind of twisted wordplay showed just how far he had gone, turning real lives into punchlines. His violence didn't stop there. He was linked to the October 2023 double murder of Donnie, a woman from Hattaway, Jarrow City, and Little Deuce from Foster Park. Killing a woman proved there were no limits, no code of honor, no off-limits targets. In Jeff's world, anyone connected to his enemies was fair game. Another name added to his list was Little Pooh from Trap City, whose death Jeff hinted at in mocking social media posts. His pattern was always the same: find a target, kill them ruthlessly, and then use their death for clout. What made him truly dangerous was how much he seemed to enjoy the mental side of murder. He didn't just shoot, he studied his victims, followed their moves, and struck at the most fear-filled moment. This level of planning showed a predator's mindset, where the act of killing was just the end of a long, calculated game of fear. And by constantly broadcasting his body count on platforms like Instagram, Jeff turned murder into both entertainment and marketing, blending street violence with self-promotion in a way that stunned even the most hardened observers.
Lil Jeff, he was on Instagram Live after he caught his last body, talking about, yo, it's 11 now, we up 11.
This wasn't just criminal behavior, it was criminal behavior turned into a brand, where death and destruction were used as content to boost engagement and grow his presence in the drill music scene. His music became the soundtrack to his alleged crimes, with tracks like Us serving as both a confession and a celebration of the violence he carried out.
The next thing you know, Jeff's got a song out called Ah. I don't know if you've heard this song, but in the song he says, he was screaming ah when he got hit, and the footage of the kid dying on the ground screaming ah, is the self-snitching's just on another.
The level of self-incrimination in Jeff's music was staggering, with him practically giving law enforcement a full confession, hidden inside beats and hooks. The psychological portrait his actions paint is of someone who had completely disconnected from empathy and lost any sense of moral boundaries. His willingness to kill children, women, and anyone even loosely tied to his enemies showed that he had crossed lines most criminals still fear to approach. This was no longer just gang warfare, it had become an obsession with violence and the power he felt from taking lives without facing consequences. The fact that he moved so openly, constantly bragging about his crimes in public and online, points to the complex relationship between law enforcement and Chicago's drill culture. Authorities either couldn't or wouldn't use his public admissions as evidence, which only fed his sense of invincibility and pushed him further into recklessness. But the streets always catch up, and Jeff's reign was destined to end the same way it began, with violence. His death on June 8, 2024, while attempting to carry out yet another murder, was a brutal twist of fate. The hunter became the hunted, the predator became the prey. After years of dealing death, he finally ran into someone just as willing to shoot and end his story the way he had ended so many others. Little Jeff's legacy is one of destruction, lives lost, families broken, and a community left scarred by a young man who had stripped away every last bit of humanity. His fall from a kid with promise to a killer stalking Chicago's South Side stands as a dark reminder of how fast a life can spiral when violence becomes the only thing someone understands.